is Terry Robinson. Lives
Oh,
about
right.
8 miles away. So he's at Chorley now. He's delighted that they've finished the league. They were miles away at the bottom.
Were they? Yeah. I had Chorley National League, aren't they? So we had, I know Ian Everett pretty well from Barrow.
He was the old Blackpool player, wasn't he?
Sorry?
Didn't he used to play Blackpool?
He did. Yeah. He did. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he did. So they were quite. They were ahead, I think, quite a bit, and just decided to. Going to put that in the background for you. How does that look?
Yeah.
Do you want it there, Joe? Don't put it over.
Yeah, he didn't realise. The guy on the left, the coach, until about 6 months
What's
ago.
he called? Yeah, what's he called?
Darren.
That's Darren, is it?
Yeah, he was in China running an academy there, but I think that's finished now.
Right. Just trying to look at the players there that I know.
He was a mate of Richard Brown. The two of them were.
Yeah, I know Richard. Richard does a little bit of intermediary work, actually.
He works with my brother as well.
Who?
Richard.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, just my brother was in a travel game for years, so it was. Does a lot of contracts. He's done all the Olympics and World Cups. You know, putting mainly works for the German firm for that, but he's self-employed, so he doesn't.
I think I know. There's Charlie Oliver.
Yeah. In
that group.
He's in National League. Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie's there, and I'm not sure of some of the others, to be honest.
Tozin, tallest one.
Tozin, yeah. Tozin's obviously the tallest one.
What a nice lad.
Yeah, he's a top bloke, isn't he?
Lovely lad. Always comments on how small
is that he's the other black lad in front of him. He's the winger.
Yeah. I think he's struggling to find anywhere. Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron Naimi.
Yeah.
Naimi. Yeah, I know his
boy. Yeah.
Get another one. I know his agent offered a load of money last year, Joe, at Crawley, and they wanted too much money, and they said no. And by the time they went back and said, yeah, they got somebody else.
No, he needs to be somewhere, but he's one of them who needs looking after. He's a dead nice kid.
Yeah, Aaron, and I'm just trying to look at the others. Who do I know? Any others? Charlie.
The one furthest left is still playing, just next to Darren, blonde lad. You probably won't know him, Martin Samuelson.
No, I don't know him. No.
He was at West Ham. Now,
why?
I don't know. Parents are millionaires. Loves his football. He's at Hull, I think, now.
Was it Hull? Is he a local lad? Was he a local lad?
No, he's Norwegian.
Oh, right, okay. So he just came over from Norway, did he?
Yeah.
There's the two lads next to him look familiar.
Right, lad.
Yeah, the blonde lad next to him looks familiar. Any of
Bradley.
those? Sorry?
The one in between, that's Daniel Grimshaw.
Daniel Grimshaw, yeah.
Who's at Hemel Hempstead now on loan. Should have gone out in loan a long while ago.
Yeah.
Clive Smith is in between him and Darren, and the guy in between, Bradley, goalkeeper. He took the when he was released, he took the release really badly. He was very, very, very upset. Yeah.
Yeah.
He took a bit of work, the boy.
Right, Bradley. I know the two lads. Well, one of the one behind you, directly to the left. I've seen his face before. Not sure his name now.
There's Josh Stacchini.
Josh
Stacchini. He went to Sheffield Wednesday. It didn't go well. And behind him, I think it's Logan Jeffs.
Don't know him.
Yeah. The one directly behind me, or you can just see him to the right of me, Josh. His football career got finished on his first under-16 international.
What happened? Knee.
There was a lad from United with a black lad with a bit of an afro going on, fannying about in his own box, twisting and turning, and give him an absolute hospital ball on the edge. Irish lad come flying in, broke his leg, but it seemed to be a clean break. Lovely family. They came in to say, what would you call it? It's a compound thing, not breaking the skin. It was this infection you can get.
Oh, God.
Yeah, not septicemia. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
Compartment syndrome. Finished him.
Oh, God.
So he played, 2/3 of a game and...
Gone.
Yeah, very, very sad.
Shame.
Lovely kid.
And there's obviously a younger lad there, or he looks younger.
No, it's the same age.
Yeah. So as you can see the difference in size. I mean, one's toasting behind him.
And he got an injury. He's just been taken on by New York Red Bulls.
New York
Red Bulls.
Oh, Red Bull, has he? What's he called?
Went across. I remember doing the stuff for him, filling it all in. You know, they've got to have GCSEs are like gold dust over there. I mean,
yeah.
And he went. I can't remember which university, but he got in, got his scholarship, and he's been playing really well. And him and the guy to the right of Mancini, dark-haired lad at the front, Adam Robinson.
Yes, I remember.
Not at the same time, but it might have been a couple of years different. I think Adam was working on building sites for a while.
He's half Chinese.
He's over there now.
Right, he's over there as well, is he?
Yeah.
And what was this young lad called? Did he say?
Derry Corf.
Who?
Derry, he's Welsh lad. Derry, D-E-R-I, Corf, C-O-R-F-E.
Yeah, it doesn't. No. And I recognise the black lad next to Mancini.
No, wait a minute. Going back, the lad you've got. Darren there, then 1, 2. The third lad, that's actually Callum. It's not Bradley.
Oh, right. Callum, yeah.
Callum stayed a while, but I don't think anything's gone on.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying the black lad?
Yeah, I know the black lad behind, to the right of Mancini, but I don't know his name either. I've seen him play.
Wood. Yeah, great kid.
Who's that?
Kid. Marcus Wood.
Yeah, Marcus Wood.
He was funny. We had, because they used to have to do their exams in different rooms, you know, their term exams.
Yeah.
And I got put in with this lot. I said, you've not brought any work in for the study. You know, you have an exam, then a study period of an hour, then another exam. Marcus, he sat there. I said, you got to bring some. What? Some revision. Or if you've no exam in a book to read. I've not brought anything. So I took him to the library. Got him. Following day, he sat there reading. So I said, I walked past quietly because some were doing exams. I said, that's much better. Got a book. I suppose it's a big enough. Turned it over. 50 Shades of Grey.
Was it? Oh,
yeah, give it here. Right, I'll go get some.
He's a local lad as well, I think, Marcus, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Frightened to death of his mum, so if ever he was out of line.
I think I've met his mum.
I'll have to have a word with your mum. Lovely woman.
Yeah, I remember. He's a bit of a character. I don't know whether he's playing now.
I don't know what he's doing now.
I don't think he's playing. I think he's playing non-league, you know, nothing.
No, I think you're probably right. Then you got Charlie.
Yeah.
A lad in front. I think he's playing. It's not Barrow. I think he's at Salford City. Devante Rodney. I could be wrong.
Devante Rodney.
I think it might be.
Yeah, you might be right.
Not sure. Lad behind him was a goalie, but he was the one who took it badly.
Yes.
The little lad in the blonde hair was an unusual one. He was from Bolton School.
That's
like old Will Davidson.
All right, no.
And he was a cricketer, really.
Oh, right, okay.
And the coaches used to go up the bloody wall and say, he's got cellulite on his belly. I said, what? I said, nothing off him. Didn't eat anything, because you'd go in and teach him how to use a knife and fork.
Right.
Dad was a fitness fanatic, slim, built. Mum, huge.
Massive.
I don't know what they were giving him to eat, but
Matt Duxbury is at Bolton School, or was at Bolton School?
He was, yeah. Well, when I used to take to the under-19s, we'd go there. They had Paul Mariner first, the coach.
Oh, did they? Paul Mariner, is he from?
Yeah, he was there
from that area, is he?
I
didn't think he was from Manchester, Paul Mariner.
It wasn't, but he was. He got a job there, worked there for a few years. Then Mike Duxbury took over from him.
Great player he was, old centre forward, wasn't he, Paul Mariner?
Yeah, with the nose to prove it.
Yeah.
So, but it does a lot of the public schools. I think the first time we went into, they had a national competition. It was the last year I did it, but I came back a couple of years later. There was a bit of a letdown. And we went down to a school in Arundel. No, where was it? Ardingly.
Right.
And it was me. And their guy had helping him, like called Ryan. Was it Jerry Ryan, played for the Republic of Ireland?
Jerry Ryan, yeah.
We won, God knows how. We got absolutely murdered. We won 2-1 or 2-0. He said at the end, would you come in and have a word with the lads and tell them where they went wrong? And it was on, I was dying to say, look, lads, they had the ball, so you should have kicked it a bit harder and run a bit faster, but I can't say that. They'll think I'm just having a go and take
it. Yeah. The other one was Paul Mariner, and he was it Ipswich? What was it? Ipswich, wasn't he?
Yeah, with Kevin Beattie and that team.
Yeah, Kevin Beattie with Tyson, France Tyson, and
Arnold Muren.
Yeah, Arnie Muren. Yeah, well, he came to United after, didn't he? He was a great player, Arnie Muren.
And they were lovely players, those Dutch lads.
Oh yeah, they were. Yeah.
And John Walk, I think, was in the same.
Yeah, Johnny Walk, with what a player he was as well. Yeah. I mean, he was old school Paul Mariner. I think he played for England, didn't he, Mariner?
I think he got a few caps.
He got not many, but I think I remember him playing for England. Yeah, Mariner.
Pleasant enough fella when he went down. Yeah. Gus Wilson still at Manchester Grammar, of course. So you get.
Yeah, Gus. Yeah, Gus.
Yeah, lovely fella.
Gus from 2 years. He hasn't changed one bit. He's a lovely lad.
I saw him about just before Christmas or just after. I go down and referee the youngsters now at Bede.
I think he wants to throttle some of the lads sometimes because they're just so arrogant and disrespectful. But
Yep, I found that at Bury Grammar. It just little bits of it. There's one or two you want to smack, but apparently you can't.
No, not anymore. You're getting good at this Zoom thing, though, Joe. I like it.
Oh, you didn't see. She was hovering.
Brilliant.
So she's gone to watch the Great British Menu now. So,
all right, yeah, okay. And who else is on that picture then now?
James Doyle at the back. If you go to the right-hand side, the blonde kid we were talking about behind. He was from Blackpool, I think. Another one of the things which I might mention tonight, which was the kids who have to move away from home.
Yeah.
And because City changed their processes, once they started putting them in Bs from 11, what they couldn't do was say, right, we'll just move one out and move one in, when we find somebody at 13, 14. So they had to only put in the top quality. For about 3 years, it became the parents at City knew, the under-9s, they were always watching who got a Bede's place. That meant you were in until you were 16.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I remember happening.
They then reduced the number they'd take at first and fill up as they went along. Because it's how we got Jaden. Jaden Sancho came in about third year.
God, cost him a fortune, though, isn't it, Joe? Cost him an absolute fortune.
I wouldn't know.
Think about it. It must have cost them a fortune. Because I know they also spent a load of money on the pitches for St Bede's, didn't they?
They did, and they said we grade these. Now we've done them up at a 7. They said, what? These are great pitches. They're fantastic.
They're fantastic, yeah.
But they said, we'll need to do a bit of work, do this, do that. They still use them now and again if there's a problem.
I've seen it. We used to, Main Road play just on the pitches next to them, don't they? So, with my old club within Amateurs, I used to go down there regularly, and it's a good, all that floods quite well there anyway,
it would do. I hated playing on there. See, it's the camber on it, across, it's just the drop either side.
Excuse me 1 minute, I've got Chanel on the other line.
No problem.
Hi, Chanel. Yeah. No, it's not Harris. No, it's Karl, Ramalli and Joe Bowden. I'm talking to Joe now. No problem, it's okay. All right. No problem, bye.
No, if ever you need to speak privately, I'll just go in the other room.
No. Chanel she's clicked on the wrong Zoom, so it's not. And I always do a test beforehand, like a technology, and this is relatively new to me as well. And I've had loads of people come on. I'll just give you some names. Did you ever meet the person that took over from you at all?
Oh yeah, we did a proper handover. Tanya.
Oh, was it Tanya? And then someone's taken over from Tanya, I think, because he's...
Yeah, but I think that was done. Tanya was going to stop. Her husband runs a business, so I think she was going to move into that. Then then the coronavirus came in. So the new guy's from Everton, I think.
Ian Wone.
Oh, is it Ian Wone?
Sorry, Charlie Wone.
I was going to say Ian Wone.
Charlie Wone's... he's the coordinator. I think...
they give it different titles as time. It's never been the same from 1 year to the next.
So I think he's the assistant head now. But he also is the coordinator for City. Got a guy called Chad
but that was what I had. And when they gave the job, then when I went part time, they gave the job to Tanya, and you have to be on for City. You've got to be on the senior leadership team,
right?
And then they call it whatever name they want.
Let's get hopefully Chanel. So she's
Hey, can you hear me?
Hi, here she is. I was just explaining to Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You can tell them all about yourself quickly, Chanel, because I know you're shooting off later.
Yeah, okay, so just quickly, I'm Chanel. I'm just a mum of what was an academy player when he was a bit younger. My son's 14 now. He was signed to Liverpool when he was 8, in under 8s, there for a couple of years, and then went on to play for Oldham for about a year. And now he's back at grassroots again. So basically we wanted to set up extra time, because my experience when he was released from an academy was that I just found that I didn't have anywhere really to turn to in terms of advice, because he was released mid-contract when he was injured.
Separate ones for this one.
And
won't be the one that you've got.
What happened after that?
I think
was I rang the PFA up just to get a bit of advice, and I just found it quite,
just your email. Can I send it again?
Not helpful, not giving you a straight line to go to.
Yeah, well, the PFA was saying that we were still entitled to training under the terms and conditions of the contract, which I knew. But when you've been released, the club say don't come back, don't bother coming back. So it was kind of like
just embarrassing for the boy as well.
So that's the problem that I had with my son. He definitely didn't want to go back, even though he knew he was still entitled to training.
I'd have done the same if I was in his shoes. Yeah, no chance.
Because the way they did it as well, it was like they said it was parents' evening. So we just genuinely didn't have a clue. No,
they shouldn't do that. That should be individualised. That's not.
We'll do it on my phone. Just hang on.
Everybody come in and we'll just tell you in the midst of all that. No.
God.
Yeah, it was literally like a big shock for us, to be honest. And I'll never forget my son being in the car as well at the time, saying, "I've got a feeling they're going to release me." And I was like, "No, it's parents' evening. Don't worry." Yeah. And then they said that you released and not to bother coming back. But it was like, well, where do we go to now? And then they wanted to send us on a trial to Crewe. And it's just more about making sure that things are more transparent for people, for parents, and they've got somewhere.
Yeah, that sounds exceptionally ham-fisted and a bit cruel, really, as much as anything else.
Definitely, and I mean, when you've been,
I'll send it you again now, Carl.
You've been there for a couple of years.
Just let me know that
friends and everything that you know. It was tough, and I just find that it doesn't matter what age they are. The way it's done is quite cutthroat and not very transparent. So
from what you've described, I think I've been involved in expelling kids from schools with a bit more grace than that.
Stay on and come on.
Because you have to go through a process. You can't sort of say, we don't want you.
We're early, so we've got plenty of time. But
it's you have to have a certain amount of respect for the people that you're dealing with.
Sorry?
I mean, it's not as though he's done anything wrong.
No. I mean, my son was injured at the time, so we couldn't play anyway. He had what they called it Sever's disease, and I think if you watch the Zoom on Thursday.
Yeah, I know Shane.
Yeah, he called it a height peak velocity, is it?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, so he was going through the start of the height peak velocity, and that's what happened to him. But then what it was bringing him back up confidence-wise after that. I mean, I'm not a pushy parent. I always say, don't believe what somebody says. Just because they said it doesn't mean it's necessarily true. You just keep trying and you don't give up.
Yeah, keep going. And
you should be able to come on.
It's a very unforgiving business.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Everybody wants to be in it, but it's...
And you should, hopefully.
But there's no need for that.
Video come on yet?
Treat people as human beings. You
can't see you yet.
Throw them aside.
So
well, I think what they wanted to do was send him to Crewe, so he'd sign for Crewe, and then they could get some sort of payment, was what I heard. Yeah, because apparently...
I mean, there is a payment scheme, but generally speaking, if clubs don't want you...
Not on Zoom, I can hear you through the phone.
They don't. Sorry, what was that, Joe?
Sorry, I didn't know whether Baz was saying something to me.
No, sorry, Joe. I'm just talking to Karl on the phone.
Yeah, generally speaking, it's a release.
You're definitely on, but I can't see you.
And it's in get another place.
There's no sound or your picture yet.
Don't get
Yeah, it's just.
If it's on your phone, it's sometimes.
As a parent, and also for the player, where can they go to that's like a neutral place? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
It's all about finding that, because as a parent, you don't know.
Yeah, it changes on it.
You just go with the hype, don't you? Really, at the time.
Yeah, and if you talk to the other parents around, they won't know either.
See if
There's no reason why they should.
I've done it on my end. Yeah,
there he is.
I think it was my end. Yeah.
Hi, Karl.
Right, I'll put the phone down now. That's hi, Karl.
Hey, mate, you all right?
Yeah, we got there.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We've got a full house then, guys. Hi, Karl. I'm Chanel.
Hi, Chanel. You okay?
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
just...
So normally Shane will come in at about 2 minutes to 8.
Yeah.
Typical youth coach, Karl. You know what they're like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shane's the one that's been at United. He was running the under 7s, 8s to 15s for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And then he fell out with Neil Ryan. This is off the record.
Yeah,
and that's Jimmy Ryan's grandson, and Jimmy Ryan was Sir Matt Busby's right-hand man. So
yeah,
he was never going to get the job. And when he didn't get a job, he just got upset and then decided to leave. So
yeah.
Usual story. You know what it's like, personalities at football clubs.
Yeah.
Frighteningly, I think I saw Jimmy Ryan make his debut.
Did you?
Yeah.
And Chanel was just explaining that her son, De Meo, was at Liverpool up until 4 years ago. Dave Horrocks, who's coming in on Thursday, that's the club that De Meo's at with Chanel.
Yeah, Fletcher Monk.
Yeah, Fletcher.
Yeah.
I know you know quite well.
Now. Mm-hmm.
So she's far better looking than us. So you can all the chat up lines.
No,
that
you
want.
chaps are quite handsome. It's okay.
I'd check your screen if you're looking at me.
It must be.
Yeah. Oh, I thought he was still talking to me then. So, Karl, sorry, what is it you do?
Just don't go on.
I'm head of academy recruitment at Blackpool.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So basically, my remit is under 7s through to under 16s.
Right. So you've got quite a variety there, haven't you? You see them go from babies basically to young men, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I currently coach the under 8s and the under 10s. Next year, it'll be the under 9s who have come up from the under 8s, and it'll be starting again, all over again with the under 7s, looking at under 7 football again. So, yeah, it's a never-ending circle. Every sort of 2 years, you're taking 9s into 10s, and I'm taking 7s into 8s, and then dropping it back round again, each sort of couple of years.
Oh.
So I'm just getting to the end of my first 2-year cycle now.
Oh, right. Oh, brilliant. Okay. But it's good that they've got that consistency of having the same coach, though, for at least that period, do you know what I mean? And you build that rapport with them and they get to know you.
And also, as well, yesterday about the parents, it's important that you've got that sort of basic relationship that you have with the parents of you're approachable, they know you. And for some of these boys that we've signed going into under 9s next year, I've already been coaching them for nearly 2 years. And this year in particular, we've travelled all over the country. We've been to Leicester, Forest, Newcastle, Middlesbrough. We've put on a massive games programme, Aston Villa, West Brom. All of those games are away. So we're all travelling together. All the boys travel together. They all meet there. It's all a big day out on a Saturday for them, big adventure. Obviously, the difficulty is some Saturday grassroots teams aren't particularly happy because you'll occasionally take 1 or 2 of their better lads. And you say to the parents, let's be honest, it's up to you. If you want to go and play against, I don't know, Wythenshawe Hams, for example, on a Saturday morning, I haven't got any issue with that at all. But there's an opportunity if you want to go and play Notts Forest or if you want to go and play at Leicester, you can do that. If you want to travel and you want to do that, you can. But I'm not going to hold that against you if you then want to play with your grassroots team if there's a clash. You've got to be fair to them. They're playing.
Yeah, it's all about making it fair and balanced and making sure they're also getting an opportunity, aren't they, for personal development, basically, as well.
Now, we had a rehearsal yesterday. It was meant to be 10 minutes.
Yes.
We got on so well, it was like an hour. And I felt like I wanted to hug and kiss them both after we'd finished.
But I'm glad I was only on here.
After the lockdown, I'm coming out with both of you two after the lockdown.
Yeah, we'll have a wicked time.
Just a very quick one for Joe. Joe, when did you finish teaching at St Bede's?
What year is it? The August 20. It'll be 3 years this August, so 2017.
Okay. I think you might know one of my old housemates, a guy called Dave McCall.
Dave McCall.
He was a rugby boy. He was a rugby boy. He was head of PE. I think he was head of PE or sporting director at St Bede's.
Dave Muckle. Oh,
Dave Muckle. Yeah.
Oh, Mucker. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, he's an animal.
We lived together at uni. Yeah, we were living together at uni. We lived.
Really? And you survived?
Just about. Yeah.
I've not seen him since the lockdown. We were due to go out in Ramsbottom. There's me, him, and the lad. There was two of us PE teachers set off within a year of each other at Bede's, and we all did the next 30 odd years together. Trevor's now a TMO in the rugby.
So I'm going to go live in 1 minute. So just go with me, Chanel. What the format tonight is, going to go with Joe for about 45 minutes, have a good chat. Karl might chip in. We've already sort of asked questions, but obviously I'll do the usual. I'll ask you to come in at some point. Is that all right?
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I'll stay on as long as I can. It's just
You're
I've got to drop bits off for the baby.
Well, you might leave in about 45. Is that right?
Yeah.
No problem. So we'll do Joe, and then Karl will come on after, but it'll be a bit of interaction. But I just thought I'd let you know. So
thank you.
Thanks for coming on, guys. So I'm just gonna
no problem.
Your screen on. Joe to start with, and then I'll go live, and then I would imagine in 10 seconds our friend Shane will come on. You know what he's like now, don't you?
I do now.
Funny, isn't he?
He is the character.
So I'm gonna go.
Oh wow, so that's you with all the Man City boys, is it, Joe?
Yeah, they're all in the 20s now, so it's
I'll do a brief intro of everybody, and then you, Joe. A little intro to you, and then I'll ask you the first question. All right, Joe?
Okay.
We're going over should be going live in about 5 seconds. 4, 3, I'm hoping 2, 1. Yeah, I can't see. Has it gone on yet? Let's just see. Go live anyway. Can you see whether it's gone live or not, Chanel?
It's not. Yeah, it's going live.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Hi, it's good to see you all again. Thanks for all the messages this week after Shane Murphy on Thursday. Really appreciate it, and I hope we answered all the questions. Just a quick say hello to Chanel, co-founder of Propel Sports Extra Time. Hi, Chanel.
Good evening, Basil. You okay?
Yes, I'm very good. And then we've all got Joe Bowden, former assistant head of St Bede's. I have to say, out of all the people that we've had on here so far, I've never had so many people say, "Oh, I've got so much to tell you about Joe." So I feel like I know you already, Joe. How are you?
I'm very well, but slightly worried after that introduction. Thank you.
And we had a good old chat to Karl yesterday, who'd been down south and come back up, and he's started off as a coach at Blackpool, but now heading up the recruitment. Karl Ramalli. Say hello, Karl.
Hi, yeah. Good evening, everyone, and thanks very much, Basil, for having me on. Much appreciated, mate. Absolute
pleasure, Karl. Well, you've got a great little academy going there, and hopefully we'll talk about it a little bit. So the format for tonight, guys, is just kick off with Joe to start with, and ask Joe, obviously, a few questions about his time at City, and obviously the boys that I'm going to show in the background now. These chaps. But just to give you a little bit of background, Joe started as a student at St Bede's in 1965. He knew Brian Kidd. He grew up in and around the Manchester area. Went to, I think, St Augustine's as well.
No.
Have I got that wrong?
We're not saying, but yeah, we played against them. Yeah, God, I didn't go there.
Your local rivals were St. Bede's. St. Augustine's, I do apologise. And then you played for Northern Nomads. You went to the same poly as me, what was known as Carnegie, which is Leeds Met now. And I did the sports similar to you that you did. And then obviously you came back into St. Bede's and started off as a PE teacher and then carried on.
Yeah. And then when I was teaching A-level then, history. So it's which was my degree subject.
So I was a Stockport grammar boy, but I remember playing St. Bede's on a regularly. And what a brilliant school St. Bede's is, but they were all pretty good. So just a quickie off before we were talking yesterday, Joe. This group here, I think this was the first batch. What batch was that in? What year was it in? And
these would be around, I think it was around 2011. By then I was, as I said before, I'd realised by then that you earn more in a suit than you do in a tracksuit. And I'd gone more down the academic side. I'd run the football there for over 20 years as a PE teacher, then went over to the academic side. And in 2011, we got news through that Man City were looking to put a group of their academy boys into a school. So they could be taught in the morning and then train in the afternoon, generally.
Okay.
And I was put in charge. They needed somebody off the senior leadership team to run it.
Okay.
And these were the first group.
Great. So I think a couple of your ex-students are listening in, and Charlie as well, who's taken over the role. So I was explaining about what we're trying to get across today is generally the link between academies and education and the positives of it. Brilliant program, we all know that, but I don't think a lot of people quite understand it, and we want to just explore those possibilities. But I think in the first week you were saying, what were the comments from the boys as they've come in to your school?
Yeah, I jotted a few down. I mean, they were at the time. And there were some crackers. What is it? People don't skip lessons. We like it here. They found it strange that everybody was in class at lesson time.
Right.
I like how everything is organised and sorted out for us. A bit too much of that in football.
Right.
I can't mess around in lessons anymore.
Okay.
It's not too crowded. I like how teachers help you out when you're stuck. And nobody swears at the teachers here, which I thought was a glowing testimonial. Most of them seemed to settle in very, very quickly and very well. The tricky thing for them was they were coming in as year 9s.
Right, yeah.
Now, because there's over 80 in the school at any one time now.
Yeah.
The academy boys and girls. Two of the first team players in the ladies' Man City did A-levels actually at the school. But bringing them in as this lot in, the experimental group, one of the brightest groups I think we ever had there. Coming in as year 9s meant they've had 2 years in other schools. So the integration went much better than we thought it would.
Right. Well, I think you've hit on it a little bit with regards for people listening. I think the more important point I want to put across is it's such a good school. It's a step up, I would say, for 99% of them. Yeah. So if they do get selected, which is brilliant, and they're on the City's team, fantastic. But not only that, it's quite unique in the fact that it's going to St. Bede's, which is really, I would call, brilliant, one of the top, if you like, elite schools itself. So I would have imagined quite a few of them were excited because not only is it they're at a great football club, they're also getting a great education.
Yeah, a lot of the parents are very, very happy. We met them all before the lads started. Manchester City provided all the uniforms, so they're getting all sorts. Look, the very, very tall lad at the back, I think we had to get a blazer specially ordered for him. He was already 6 foot.
Yeah.
It was a very, very exciting period. It's a Catholic school as well, so one or two of the lads have put, we have mass here. I've never had that before. It was fascinating. And it was lovely when Mr. Mancini came and had a look round as well.
Funny that. I no change has come in. Hi Shane, how are you doing?
How are we doing? Sorry, mate.
Yeah, it's okay, no problem. Just a difference between Ashton-on-Mersey for United and obviously St Bede's. Obviously, you don't know much about St Bede's programme, but how did it work at United with regards to their boys? And they didn't take a full group on. They only
it was just a select few. It started like 14, but obviously special players like Marcus and stuff like that, they came in at 11 and 12. But it was mainly for 14 plus. But then obviously the group got bigger, and we sort of like devised. Well, the Manners program was all about talent and how you can nurture the talent. Obviously, education's a big part of it, and it's also getting school on board where you'd be able to take them out of class, out of class, to do training in the afternoon, but still get their education in, or vice versa if they were going swimming in the morning or whatever it was. But it was the day, it was the day release program type thing. That's what they needed, and not all schools. Not all schools abided by that. It was a case of we were in school and they're with us until 6, and then obviously the lads would come training after. But the training would still go ahead as normal. But the kids that were in the Manners program, they sort of like had a different sort of like program. So they train in a day with the older boys.
Yeah. So they started at 14 and maybe 2 or 3, whereas obviously City's program, they start at 11. And
and a lot of the boys went to City for that reason. For the signing selection or whatever.
Right.
They've got a chance of going to a very good education, as well as also being at one of the top Premiership clubs. I mean, I'm not being funny. I'm a United fan through and through and worked for them for 15 years. But if it was my choice and my boy, I'd probably take him to City.
It's a little bit different. Everyone's got choices to make, and it's a fantastic choice, but it's not just about the education and the academy. What's in front of them, what's behind them, transport. Karl will probably on this as well. Karl, your background in being a teacher, Karl, location, maybe being a big fish in a small pond is better as well for some boys. So I know fantastic education. I know fantastic being at a pro club, but you've got to take a lot into consideration because it's a big move, isn't it? Isn't it, Joe? Sorry, Karl, over to you.
It's interesting to hear both of the gents speak, Joe and Shane, because I was stuck in between those two schools for 18 and a half years at Stretford Grammar, which is sort of geographically probably about halfway between both. And I'd taken boys to both Ashton-on-Mersey, which was a regular school that we played against every year. And then if we had English schools games, although probably St Bede's, as the crow flies, is probably a little bit nearer. We didn't play them until probably my last 3 or 4 years at Stretford. But I understand, you've got a private school ethos. You go and look around the buildings, it feels like there's a real history to St Bede's. Ashton-on-Mersey, the one thing that I certainly felt like was, you can see that the school had massively benefited from their partnership with Manchester United in terms of facilities, in terms of what they had around the PE facilities. I would often look enviously at their facilities and just go, wow, look what they've got. If only we could have anything like even remotely like that. But it's important. But you've got to make as a parent, you've got to make the right decision for your child. And there was we had boys, one in particular, who was at United up until this season. His dad wanted to keep him with us. He didn't want to go to Ashton-on-Mersey. He wanted to stay with us at Stretford Grammar because he felt that was the best choice for his son at the time.
Yeah. Well, that's saying no sometimes is the right thing. It's a difficult choice because it plays on your emotional strings, and probably your son or your daughter would want to play football over and above the education, but being a parent, a little bit more and a bit wiser. So it's not always the best answer, and hopefully that the parent can guide the lad or the girl in the right direction. Joe, so good question, and lead on. How did you find mixing or the boys coping with sport and education? How have you found that?
There's as the other two gents said, there's advantages and disadvantages to moving a whole group in, and eventually, as I said, 80. They're all wearing Manchester City outfits. They go to CFA every day now. It was Platt Lane then. and they used a lot of money on our pitches as well at Bede's because they needed to play on them during the transition from Platt Lane to CFA.
Yeah.
And it's quite awe-inspiring to walk into CFA.
Yeah.
It's hard to get into.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the youngsters and a lot of the parents are sort of semi-overwhelmed by it. It looks sensational. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And the people there are lovely. Trying to focus them on education, with some of them it's easy. Some of the brightest kids we've had over the last 4 or 5 years. I've had a number, a mathematician, there's an English lad who's now playing for a Premiership club in the south. And the staff said he's Oxbridge. If he'd have been, a standard student, we'd have been putting him in Oxford, Cambridge, that sort of level.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Some struggle a wee bit. With this lot, when they first came in, I'd not demanded, but asked, because it was such a transition, that we'd have 2 teachers with each class that they were in. Since then, we integrated, when they came in at year 7,
yep,
we integrated the youngsters. So there were 3 or 4 in one class, 3 or 4 in another.
Right.
And the integration's a lot easier in year 7, year 8, year 9, not so bad.
Right.
Once they get to year 10 and 11, and they're doing slightly different, they've got to have 8 GCSEs made available to them. There's some lessons you can't get away from it. You've got to teach them as a group. And that sort of level of mixed ability can be a bit tricky at times, but some staff are brilliant at it. We had to basically teach these how to go about what they did compared to what they did before.
Yeah.
One of my bugbears all the time was homework. These kids are shattered. I mean, they've got 2 jobs. They've got school, which every kid has got.
Yeah.
But they've got football as well, and it is a football. These kids could sleep anywhere. You give them half an hour, the heads will go. And
I think a lot of academy lads can sleep anywhere because it's tiring, mentally and physically. I remember my son coming back
exhausted.
He was coming back from an ISFA game down in Eton, playing for Manchester Grammar.
Yeah.
11 o'clock at night. 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, you've been there. Yeah. Karl will know this. 11 o'clock at night, and he's just a drill. He said to me, "Dad, I've got to do my Russian homework." I'm like, "Oh, dude, don't worry about it. I've got to do my Russian homework." And, that was ingrained in him. So I would imagine you've got a lot of those boys that are educated and do want to do well. But what about the boys that haven't? Do you have to put more effort in, that maybe they need a little bit more help?
They need loads more help. And it was one of the things that I thought about trying to do once I retired, which is some of the youngsters that you get, because they're just a cross-section of the kids. They're just a cross-section of kids. You've got to look after kids. It's what you do teaching for, hopefully. And some of them needed a little bit of more sort of tearing back down to the brick and building up again. Yeah. And you can't do that in a class with even another 15 or 16 youngsters. You really need a little bit of one-on-one. And that gap can become huge as you go through the 11 to 16. So you need to address that very, very quickly. And most of them are, I think, one of the psychologists at City, a young lady, just said a lot of them are kinesthetic learners. So they need to be active. They need to be doing things. They need to be challenged. They love tests.
Right.
And the first thing they'll ask at the end is who came last.
What the players used to say, who came last?
Yeah, give them a test. They'll hand it all in, you mark it, who came last. It's the first question that comes in.
That's competition for you, isn't it?
Oh, it's the banter bit, which again, you've got to try and take out of the classroom. Because once they know you, and I had to go to CFA a lot, the big thing then was you shook hands with everybody.
Yeah.
The first tour I went on with, as I told you, I went to Qatar with them. We were there for 2 weeks.
You went with Shane, didn't you? You went with Shane.
Yeah, Shane
was on Thursday. Yeah,
it was a fantastic trip. But you shake hands constantly. Then at school, they want to shake hands, and you said no. I said, why? So I don't shake hands with the rest of the youngsters at school. While you're here, you're a pupil. While you're there, you play football, and there's got to be some sort of differentiation. But the tiredness, the expectation that's ladled on them, in both spheres, the pressure they put on themselves, they worry about letting other people down, they worry if they've not had enough minutes.
Yeah, right.
And it's all got to be put on with a front.
Yeah. Chanel.
You can't appear to be weak.
When De Gea was at Liverpool, did you find that the shaking hands, smiling, making sure you look somebody in the eye was something that Liverpool did a lot of at the academy?
Did do that at the start of games, but I did find, because he was training 3 times a week from the age of 8, it was quite draining for him as well mentally, getting back home, literally just eating his tea, going to bed, finding time to fit the homework in and getting that balance was really quite difficult. So yeah, it's hard, and like Joe says, just echoing that, there's so much pressure, especially when they're at that age as well, because they've got SATs coming up and all these things, and it's hard to find the balance right as a parent whilst getting in the training and making sure that you're doing everything right. So yeah, some things do give, and I did find that it was very competitive as well in school, because probably they're used to that competitive environment all the time, being out playing football. So the two worlds, like you say, you've got to try and make sure they're in balance and they don't clash with each other, because you're one person on that pitch, aren't you? And then you've got to put a different hat on for the school environment.
That's quite a good life skill, that, Shane, isn't it? I mean, you think about, Joe's just mentioned Qatar, but all the tournaments you've gone to, Beijing, the Med Cup, the Christmas Truce tournament, Shane, the lads learn quite a lot of life skills on these trips. They learn.
Oh yeah, you find out a lot about the lads as well. Personally, because you're with them 24/7. You're sort of like, a childminder as it is, but you're not at the same time. But you find out a lot about the personality, a lot about, lads that are homesick that you might not have thought would have got homesick, or, just need a phone call to home, or lads that are just, wired in that way, where just totally focused on football. But yeah, going away to all those different countries on different tournaments.
Learn different food.
Yeah, different food, different cultures. Obviously, as a coach, and obviously coming from an educational background as a sports coach as well, sort of like you can, if you relate to the lads with the football teams, they know everything. Right? Well, what's the capital of Spain or whatever? They know everything because it's all revolved around football. But then also the culture side of it as well. I remember going to, I think we went to Rome, and just all the Italian sort of rustic. Everything but there was a chapel in the middle of the square and all sorts, and we go for a little wander and stuff like that. But the kids aren't interested, not one bit. They just want to play football. When are we up for breakfast? Well, we're up at 8. It's only 4 o'clock. You need to have your tea first. Yeah. But what time's the first game? Well, I'll tell you when we get there. Don't worry about that. Look at this. Oh. And it's just the camaraderie. You learn so much, and then obviously when the boys are together as well in the actual group, you find that the cheeky chappies and the banter and all the rest of it is flying around, and they get the camaraderie, and it's really good.
You also know the ones that have been looked after by mummy too much.
Yeah.
don't like the foreign food. Get homesick. Karl, you were talking about camaraderie and travelling away with Blackpool with the lads just on a coach.
Yeah.
That for me.
Yeah.
Well, we're all well past it now, but I used to get so excited about just going on an away trip on a coach or in a minibus with 15 lads and Sir. It's fantastic, isn't it, Karl? What a brilliant, a great experience.
Quite lucky, really. Yeah, quite lucky, really, that 4 years ago, the under-9 team at Stretford Grammar, we managed to get to the National Schools final that was held at Reading. Yeah. Some of the away trips that we did, not just that season, but in the following sort of 2 seasons after that, was just so memorable. You're sort of travelling down. You think, it could be a bit of a pain, really, but you're going to places you'd never go to or never experience again as players. None of the boys that I had in that squad were academy boys. They were good grassroots boys, good grassroots players. Some of them have been on the fringes, nudge players, but they were a grassroots team of mates. And to go away and to have that sort of friendship mentality when you're travelling to Reading or you travel down to play in Tamworth from a Manchester school, it was a great experience, not just for them as well, but also for me. It was a learning curve for me, because you do get to see another side of the boys when they're not in the classroom, when they're not in uniform, when they've got
You're right.
to get on.
These boys are taking these experiences, and they are life skills to going into another environment, how to behave, how to talk to people. If you lose, make sure you lose magnanimously. Make sure you win. Keep, don't go over the top when you win and shouting and screaming, Joe. And you've seen it a lot. I mean, they are special boys, but I think what I'm trying to get at is it's a real job to try and keep the balance as well of not having a chip on your shoulder, but being confident, but at the same time being grounded. And I think obviously St. Bede's do that brilliantly, Joe, don't they?
It's always been a matter. The mantra was always win well, lose well, because it's both things are going to happen.
Yeah.
But Carl's dead right. I mean, some of the trips you go on are just fantastic. I mean, we went down to Harrow for a game, and you have to give them a going over on the way. Do not start laughing at these kids when you get there, because they all wear straw boaters.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, they're all soft. I said, I think you'll find these lads are fit as fiddles. I mean, well, every afternoon, these private schools, the big posh ones, they're off running. They are so physically fit.
Yeah.
If you're not playing well and competing with them at the same time, you're going to struggle, and struggle mightily. And it's you do learn such a lot. And there's a lot of those kids I'm still in touch with now, because they always talk about the trips. The photos are there. So some of the stuff that may well come back to me after this, we'll be talking about trips they've been on.
So tell me about how there's going to be parents listening here. They've got boys at an academy or boys at a school thinking of going into academy, maybe not doing as well at school. How do you think, in your experience, would you tell them or advise them to try and get their education up?
It's got to be done on three levels. It's got to be the child themselves.
Right.
To a certain degree, they've got to work, but I put that together with the parents.
Right.
The parents really do need to be at least one step back, because the child will just head straight for that. Everything looks fantastic. I've been picked. Everything is in. Parents have just they don't need to be trying to drag the kid down. Just be, the big word all the time, I think, is praise.
Right.
Praise the child for what he's doing or she's doing in their academic work as well as the football. Don't make one a much bigger deal than the other, because it's not happened yet. These kids at 18, 19 think they've made it because they've done and sadly they disappear.
Yeah.
For the club, I always see at City, you go upstairs and you've got an honours board of internationals, under 16. So, what's that? Why don't you get an honours board for GCSE success or something? Just something.
That's clever.
That shows we value that, and we give you a place to work and a time to do something. And like a lot of schools have to do, I think clubs should do this anti-geekism thing, where, if you're good at that, you're not part of our crew.
Yeah. It's not quite black and white.
It's not an easy thing to do, but something that makes you think, I've got the two jobs and they're both of great worth. Do you want to create a rounded individual, somebody who can comport himself, herself in life?
So a rounded individual, and taking an even stance on education and sport, those are two qualities. So what you try to say really is, yes, if you make it, fantastic, but your education's important. If you don't make it, what other factors apart from those do you think are important to keep the education up as well as the sport?
Well, I think the other thing I was going to say, for the school, I think they should be doing, I know I said it at the time, but less homework. Try and fit your lessons into the classroom time. There might be a little finishing off to do, but if they're going home loaded up with work,
right,
they need a challenge. Here's what we're doing today. Here's the challenge. Let's get it done and see if we can finish it.
Okay. Well, maybe the programme might have changed now. We don't know.
It's shifting all the time.
And you've got to, what's good now wouldn't be good 5 years ago. And in another 5 years, it will probably kick on again with all the internet. And look at this Zoom technology.
Yeah, in terms of what you asked, the mental health of these youngsters is extremely important, because you don't want to be hit with, and the old 11 plus was nice and straightforward. You do it on that date. When I did it, it was a long while ago.
Still the same, Joe. Still the same.
On that day, if you were ill, you get yourself there, or you're just down as a fail. And it was just cutthroat, gone.
Yeah.
Now, failure at that age, failure for these shouldn't be seen as failure. You've done very, very well to do. Your education should give you that plan B. You're only coming out with two things. Sorry, that way. Two things at 16. Your football, if this is what you're doing. We're talking about academy youngsters. And your exam results, which is quantifiable. You've got a certificate with these things on. Yeah. So at 16, you've done your two jobs. You've either got a scholarship at the club you were at, possibly you've moved on, possibly you've decided, as at least a couple of these did, not for me, I'm going into education. I mentioned a couple of lads before. One of them immediately applied, went back to his old school to do A levels, but immediately applied for a US scholarship, football scholarship.
Yeah, okay.
So there's three of those boys. I think there's more of those boys on scholarships in the USA than there are playing Premiership or Championship football.
I mean, that's just brilliant. Great advice, Joe. I mean, Chanel, you'll know about this as well. With regards education, nowadays, you know, when I was growing up, similar to you, Karl, it was, you know, if you do maths, you're going to be XYZ, accountancy or business. You do English, you're going to be teaching or whatever. Now, so many other skills and so many other vocations in life. It's not just about results, is it? I think we need to get the message across to the sports people and parents that there's lots of different choices now, isn't there, Chanel?
Yeah, because it can open so many doors for you. I mean, it's not definitive that you're studying maths, you're going to be a mathematician. You could go into so many different realms. And like with the sports as well, you can also go into sports science, sports psychology, you know, nutrition, different things. But I think the main thing here is getting, like you said, the balance right, because ultimately they're both learning environments, and that's where, you know, that's where they've got the familiarity. The school's a learning environment, and also the academy as a football is another learning environment, but it must be really difficult to keep the balance there, especially when they're going through the other pressures as well of growing and the pressure of trying to win all the time and competing and keeping the place as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. So just a quick one to everybody out there. If you want to ask any questions for Joe, please get them in as you do normally. We'll be obviously asking Joe later on about his favourite five-a-side team, Joe. So get jotting down your favourite five-a-side team. Karl, how have you found the difference between, you know, Stretford Grammar, obviously running Blackpool, and obviously now running the academy and heading up the recruitment? Have you found a bit of a jump for some of the boys?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I've just recently left Stretford Grammar about 3-4 months ago now to try and it was harder for me trying to find that balance of traveling backwards and forwards from Preston, where I live, to Manchester and back every day. I did that for nearly 19 years. And working at Blackpool, it was okay when I was doing grassroots. That wasn't so much of an issue. But then trying to combine that with Blackpool, that was tough. So now I sort of probably have a little bit more empathy when we take boys in from Liverpool or Stockport, sort of South Manchester way, for example. You feel for them. You think, I've done that drive. I wouldn't fancy doing that drive at that, you know, like a 5:30 around the M60. That's not great. So yes, I do empathise a lot more now when I see those boys, particularly when they're young. You know, when they're coming in and they're coming up to training with us, they're under 7s or they're under 8s, and they're coming an hour journey away to us. That's a big ask. And one of the conversations that I have with the parents is, it's not just about, do we want to sign your son or not? It's about the welfare of your son. Do we really want to ask your son and you to do an hour journey backwards and forwards? If it's ultimately, we might say no. There's even if it's a 50-50.
It's a long way, isn't it? It's a long way.
The welfare of those boys is absolutely critical for me, because if they're coming in tired, what performance are you going to get from them at training? They're not doing their best. You're not seeing their best. So that's really sort of made me think about where we're signing the boys from and what we asked them to do.
So from Manchester's point of view, obviously we've got some good local schools. Joe, I mean, St Bede's is not far from CFA. That's pretty good. But you're talking about some of the lads making it and some of the lads not making it. And great that some of these lads that are in the picture have got scholarships. Do you think there's an age where they sort of think to themselves, right, actually, I'm not the best in this group. I might not make it as a pro. and I've got to look at alternatives. Do you think there's a sort of, is it 12, is it 14, is it 16? What do you think, Joe?
Absolutely. Kids always know. I mean, it used to be that you used to be given positions in class, you know, for your exams.
Yeah.
You came first, you came second. They stopped that a while ago. You give that's the average mark, and you're just above or below it.
Yeah.
Kids always know. They know. And these lads, like all the rest of you, they know who the superstars are. They've got a sheet at parents' nights. It used to be myself and somebody from the club. And the club, they had all the stats down, how many minutes they'd played, all the rest of it. And you could tell. And some of the lads were getting very, very little pitch time. So they're not daft. They worked it out. You do get some who just suddenly accelerate. You get some that plateau, which I think one of the great things about City is once they came into Bees, they got 5 years guaranteed.
Yes.
And City always adhered to that, always.
Yeah,
so they were going through to 16. It's just unfortunate the scholarship decision and GCSEs coming within a very short time of each other, and it's youngsters are either delighted, I've cracked it, you know, I've done it, I've got it, or I've got to get another club, which doesn't help. But in terms of do they know? Oh yeah,
right.
And even some of the ones who do get offered scholarships have a good think beforehand.
Yeah, it's really good advice, that.
So just better somewhere else.
Yeah. So just hold the horses. I might get a scholarship at City, but look ahead of myself. Who's playing in my position ahead of me? Who's behind me? I mean, Shane, you know that a lot, don't you, mate? And you talk about two things there. I want you to talk about playing time and how you handle playing time with kids and not getting enough playing time. And second is, it's a choice, isn't it? Because obviously you can't all sign for Man United and Man City. There's lots of fantastic clubs out there, like Blackpool, you know, Oldham, Rochdale. Maybe it is better for some of the boys to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a saying, isn't there? You know, would you rather be a big fish in a small pond, or, you know, would you get swallowed up with the sharks? It's one of those. I think, like Joe was saying, the kids know. The kids know more than anybody. You know.
So is it the parents that are kidding themselves then, not the kids?
Yeah, just not being realistic, I don't think, Baz. You know, a lot of parents have got their heads in the clouds and don't see what's right in front of them, which is, it's a shame. But I think if you're open and honest and, you know, realistic with the parents and say, right, well, he needs to pull his socks up if he wants to stay here. And obviously, you know, you word the lad up about that. And then it's up to, you know, it's entirely up to the...
What about
playing time? Yeah, I mean, obviously, the latter stages of the academy, the latter stages of the academy, 13, 14, 15, 16, obviously you're sort of like set in stone. You're either not playing, you're a sub, or you play down a year, or you know, if there was in-house games, or we used to arrange, let's say, for instance, at the younger ages, we used to invite other clubs down at the same time, so we might have like a festival, but the kids sort of like, again, the kids know, you know what I mean, they're in the B team, well, not the B team, but they're in another team, not the best team. The kids are savvy, you know. I think they need to be. But
Karl, what do you think to playing down? I know United are big on it, City are quite big on it as well. How does it work at Blackpool? I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, to be honest, you know.
Yeah,
you're going to get more game time, play down a year, or you physically not quite big enough. There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
Not at all. I mean, I can talk from experience, only being 5'6". But for me, yeah, it's important. We, for example, I'm not obviously going to name names. We had a lad who'd had quite a bad injury, and he's played down this season to rebuild himself up physically, psychologically. You know, he's missed out on a year sort of technical and tactical development. So we put him down a year to then advance him back up again. It works sometimes, it doesn't work sometimes. There's so many different factors that are out there, but it's certainly something that we've done. And obviously we do the other way as well, which is if someone's excelling in a certain age group, then we'll push them up as well to challenge them with more experienced, slightly older boys, maybe slightly physically stronger boys or quicker boys, or lads who are a little bit more savvy tactically.
So sometimes, Joe, it might be, the boys might be playing football, but they don't really know what the coaches are thinking. There's a reason behind them playing down or playing in a different position or playing something. But you as a PE teacher, Joe, you've had that a lot of times, haven't you? And no doubt you've learned that there are means to the madness sometimes. Yeah,
it's. I think as Shane said, if you're honest with them and tell them what your thinking is, generally speaking, they'll accept it. If it's something that they can get their head around, and it's not something where they've got to guess and try and second guess what you're doing, sometimes it can be a bit unpalatable.
Yeah,
you've been a bit of a prat for the last week, so if you're wondering why you sat here instead of out there, there's your answer. And
tell us about the story where you sent somebody off or to the other side of the field, and I think he had to stand facing the other way.
Have you made this up? I don't remember this one. You've been dreaming vividly again.
I think that was Baz, actually. It's from personal experience. I think he was a corner flag for a while.
I got a message from one of your students saying, "I'll never forget."
Oh, all right. Yeah. I probably tried to blank it from my mind. I remember taking one lad off who is a really good player. He's a coach in Long Island now.
Wow.
He was a very, very good player. Played for ISFA and all the rest of it. And we were at Stonyhurst. It was a horrible day. It was pouring. And he was just being a prat on the pitch. Just, come on. What, me? So, get over it. Stand behind me. Because the rain was hitting me back. So stand behind me and wait there. I'll put you back on in about 10 minutes. Once you've calmed down and stop being an idiot. And this lad's been stood here waiting anyway. So now, so you can have a real laugh with it. As long as there's no malice or nastiness in it. I did see in a county cup semi-final, we were in the final, we were waiting to see who won, under 19. And as a ball got knocked in late in extra time, and a lad headed it out of his own keeper's hands off for a corner. Which I thought, better safe than sorry. Corner got whipped over, bang, in it went. I think Dennis Betts, the rugby player.
Yeah, wow, Wigan. Yeah.
Yeah, Pendleton, 6-1, whatever. Knocked it in, 1-1-0. And as I walked past at the end, the opposition manager, the teacher, got them all together and said, "You play great, lads, except for him. He's cost you that." I thought, that was just, it was absolutely unnecessary. The kid had done the right thing. He wasn't sure, so he just put it away.
That's like Shane Yates plays like that,
Not too sure about that.
Listen, so before we hand over to Karl, on behalf of a lot of people, Joe, and I've been involved with football probably 35 years, but you've been involved in it probably nearly 50 years.
Steady on.
I said football. I know you're not that old. But there's a lot of people have messaged me saying they loved the time at St. Bede's, mate, with you. They loved that you were a mentor, a friend, an uncle, a brilliant teacher. It's a testament to you and your character of how good they are. And the whole point of this as well is that we don't want to just give negative messages about football and school and life. There's lots of positive messages. And I think me, Chanel, and Shane and Karl would just like to give you a round of applause. This is on behalf of people that are listening in, because there's a lot of your ex-students listening. Well done, mate.
That's very kind. And very kind of them.
You work for the NHS as well, Joe. What?
You can give me the 50 quid later, Joe. All right.
Oh, and I can't see Shane. But Shane can hear me, can he?
I can, mate.
Yeah, he can.
Mr. Aidan Maloney, do you know him?
I do. Yes, I do know Aidan. Yeah.
He was in one of my football teams.
Was he? Well, I worked with his brother, Ray Maloney.
Oh, yeah.
As well. Yeah, and also, there's loads of things going on, because I think Karl would have known Rowan Roach as well, who signed pro for Blackpool. Yeah. Is that right, Karl?
Yeah, Rowan Roach, good lad.
Very good lad. Mean, I've taught him since he was 8 years of age. I think Baz has gone. I taught him since he was 8.
No, I'm here.
Are you there, Baz? Sorry, you went off for a minute. I think I taught him since he was 8, and I remember him scoring. He must have scored 10 goals against Everton one particular year, and he was a special player. And Jed and his dad and his mum were really, really nice people.
So, Joe, a quick one from John Fay. that illustrious student, a good friend of mine. He loves you. Kevin Foran. I've got Helen Bowden applauding you from home.
That's my daughter. She's bound to.
Oh, okay. Cheeky, you got a ringer in. No, but you
keep up well on. She works for the FA, so keep.
I've got a big City fan, a good mate of mine, Robin Hoffman as well, and Richard Tratz. They're all saying hello, well done. Really appreciate it, mate. I mean, we're not losing you now. You're going to stay on, but obviously it's you've had enough now. It's Karl's turn. But would you come on again and talk in other areas? If I got you on again, would that be all right?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
So, Karl, over to you for a minute. Just a little bit of background into Karl. Were you born in the Northwest, Karl?
No, I was born in Retirementville in Eastbourne in East Sussex.
So you were born in East Sussex, and then I know you went to.
I think I brought the average age down to about 80 when I was born.
Okay. I know you went to Brunel and you studied PE, and I know obviously you started a Saturday team at the college, and I also know that you obviously moved back to Lancashire or up to Lancashire in 2000. I know you couldn't get a job, and you walked away from football actually at one point, didn't you?
Yeah. What happened was I went to Borough Road. That was the PE training college in West London, and it merged with Brunel while we were there.
Yeah.
But if people are sort of a certain age remember Borough Road, that's where I was, and did a PE course there. But when I arrived, and I played from a county up to under 18s at schoolboy level, and when you grow up in East Sussex at the time, Crawley didn't really exist. They were a non-league team at the time. They weren't pro. And the only pro club that was within about 50 miles was Brighton. So if you didn't make it at Brighton, or you weren't scouted by Brighton, that was it. So consequently, about 14, you were talking earlier about at what age does the penny drop for boys that realise I'm not going to make it? And for me, it was about 14.
Okay.
And I was playing for my district, captain in my district as well then. And I had quite an inspirational PE teacher arrived. He's now Dr. Gary Stidder, and he works at Brighton University back home in Eastbourne. And he basically inspired me to go to the same university, the same college that he went to, and literally follow his route. So when I arrived at uni, I was looking at the structure of the football when I arrived, thinking, right, I'm going to go straight in and start playing a good standard here at uni, because it was all PE boys. And it was a little bit different to what I was used to. It was like captains, and it was very much like a seniority thing where the third years and your fourth years were in the first team, the first 11, and they were picking their mates. And there was a lot of lads who were sort of in first year who were good players, like Welsh schoolboy internationals, lads coming in from Glasgow. We had Irish lads there as well. We're all coming in, and we're sort of scratching our heads going, well, we're all together in the seconds and the thirds. What do we do on Saturdays? What is there on Saturdays? And there was just nothing there at all. So I just turned around and said, let's start a university team up on a Saturday. And we entered the Middlesex County League, did well in our first season, and then effectively then started teaching about a year after that.
So
on a placement. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
On a placement, my last teaching placement, I taught Peter Crouch.
Right. Okay.
Which was an interesting experience, because you know what? He was exactly the same as he is now. He was absolutely identical. You know, he was 6'7" at 16.
I think he's from the Northwest, actually. I think he's from Macclesfield, isn't he? Yeah, I think Crouch is from Macclesfield.
Well, I know that his family lived not far from school, and which was in West London at the time. And there was one. I refereed one game with him as like a trainee PE teacher, and the actual head of PE said, "Keep an eye out. He's decent. He's on with Spurs as a youth player. This was when he was 16. He's decent. You'll see it as soon as he steps out on the pitch. You'll see how good he is." Well, all I saw was Bambi on ice. He was all over the show. He kept falling over. I said to him at half time, "Will you stop trying to dive and win penalties? Because I'm not giving them." And
well, it's the old
and then
peak height velocity, isn't it? With the old usual.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, if you had said to me he's going to go on and play for England, score over 100 Premier League goals, I would have sort of been scratching my head. You could see he had ability, but he's unique. And sometimes, and I think part of the process for me is you've got to be in the right place at the right time.
Okay, so
to take opportunities. So when I moved up to Lancashire, I moved up with my now wife, who I met at uni. I had then finished also coaching Middlesex schools. We used to have an under 11 rep team, which, you know, when you think back at it now, you think, wow, how did that work? And we used to play Kent, Inner London, Surrey. We all had under 11 county rep teams down there. Moved up to Lancashire and I went, well, I can do that up here. I came up with huge amount of enthusiasm and I want to get involved straight away. And can I do this and can I do that?
Yeah.
I found up a local guy, obviously a PE teacher, who was in charge of Lancashire schools and doing the admin at the time. And I was full of it. And I was like, I've just come up from Middlesex and I've done this and I've done that. And would you be interested? Because I'm really keen to get involved. And he went, no, not interested, thanks. And I literally just came off. I just felt destroyed. I'm like, all that experience and all that enthusiasm that I had, it just almost like just drained out of me to the point where when I moved up, I didn't really know anyone up here other than my wife's family. And I walked away from football. I just walked away from it. I thought, I don't know anyone.
You persevered. You persevered and you persevered. You got your masters. You've got your coaching. You've got your UA4B. You've got your teaching experience. And then you joined the Blackpool Academy a couple of years ago. So, and now you're obviously head of recruitment for the you know the junior section in the academy. Yeah. So, again, another lesson is, you know, one door closes, another one opens. Happens a lot, Shane, doesn't it, in your life, being from Man United coach and then running your own academy now, RS. It's fantastic, isn't it? You know, you just don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. I think if you have a love for something, you're always gonna go back to it. You know, working such a long time for Man United, and that's probably one of the only reasons why I didn't set up my mini football academy, which I've got now, sooner, because obviously I worked 7 days a week for many years. But obviously since leaving there, then I set that up. And actually, Karl, I think you know Nick Hill does a bit for you, doesn't he? Yeah. Well, his son plays for my team, and he does our under 11s, soon to be under 12s. So it's one of those things, you know, doors open all the time. Look at me now doing this with you, Baz. You know what I mean? Yeah. These things happen, don't they?
Yeah, you've gone right to the top, haven't you, mate? Eh? Quick question from the audience for you, listening tonight, Karl. What should players be doing at 7 to 9? What is the most important thing?
Enjoying football.
Enjoying football.
Play. Enjoy it. Right. You know, just let them play. Let them have fun. Don't put the pressure on them. Just go out there and just do your best. Show me what you can do. Just enjoy it. Just play. You know, we were talking earlier about, you know, Joe mentioned about a teacher berating a lad and saying, you know, it's his fault that we conceded that goal. You see it, you know, scouting. You just see parents just sort of agitated because their son, or, you know, in some cases their daughter, isn't quite doing what they think they should be doing, or they're not keeping up with a star player in their little grassroots team. Don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. Just let them enjoy it. They're children. And if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, well, don't worry. They'll do something else, and they'll love doing something else instead, as well as carrying on doing football.
Chanel?
Yeah.
You'd let the mayor go to Blackpool with him there, wouldn't you? He's lovely, isn't he?
Yeah, I definitely would. I do think that, just echoing that again, you've just got to let them enjoy it. And I think it's hard sometimes as a parent when you do see like them playing and you're in the zone, aren't you, too hyped up in it yourself, and just remembering to, you know, just let them enjoy it, just let them do what they're doing. You know, we all learn sometimes by making mistakes. So
you got opportunity now, Karl. You can tell us, and I know the benefits of a Category 3 or a Category 2 club over a Category 1, but let's hit straight home now. Come on, tell me, why come to a Cat 3 club and not go to a Cat 1 club?
Well, I think that a number of reasons. I think there's a misconception that sometimes Cat 3 coaches and Cat 3 staff are not as qualified or not as experienced as others. That's a myth that we need to dispel straight away. The
Boom.
Cat 3 coaches are exactly as well qualified, if not more so, than some that you're going to get at Cat 1, Cat 2. And they've chosen to work at a Cat 3 for, again, various different reasons. And they're no less experienced or no less qualified. So in terms of a Cat 3, whether it's at Blackpool or anywhere else, you know, wherever you're based, wherever your local Cat 3 team is, don't dismiss them. Don't say, well, that's not as good as at that club or this club. The difference really comes in normally facilities and the amount of time that they get to train. That's really the only key difference. Not in terms of the quality of the coaching, not in terms of the support they'll get, not in terms of the education. It's really to do just with look at the facilities and look at the amount of time that they can afford to give your son or daughter.
What would your area for Blackpool's sort of catchment be? Do you go, how far south do you go? How far north do you go? And what's the benefit of Blackpool over another Category 3 club? And obviously, you know, while you're on, you know, Blackpool is a great club, and I know a lot of the benefits there. But what do you feel are the benefits?
For me, I think it's a real family feel to the club. We don't have development centres. We have one academy base, and that goes right from under 7s right the way up to under 18s, and then obviously you transition hopefully into the first team squad. But for me, when you come in up under 7 or under 8, or if you're coming in at under 12, you've just been brought in from your grassroots team, I feel the real strength is you're welcomed, not just by the staff, but by the other players as well. You're part of that group. Even if it's only for 6-8 weeks, you're part of it. I want the boys to feel like they're part of it, to give them a great experience. That, you know, in a perfect situation, we want all the boys that we scout, that we bring in to sign. Sometimes that's not always possible, but we want them to go away and their parents to go away feeling like they've been made to feel welcome. They've been given a fair crack of the whip. And we haven't got the world's greatest facilities. We haven't got CFA like Manchester City have. We haven't got the facilities that Liverpool, Everton or Manchester United have. What we have got is a very personal, I feel, personal, caring approach to the boys and also to the parents when they come in.
I mean, that's great, isn't it? I mean, that's Joe. I mean, on the other foot now, it's good to be small sometimes, because obviously Karl can keep an eye on them and sort of have that family atmosphere. Whereas at a bigger club, I suppose, it's a little bit harder to keep an eye on everybody. Some slip through the net.
Well, you've got the staff. They also run various other teams at each age, especially the select teams they've got lower down under, the under 8s, under 9s, and so on.
Yeah.
The only thing about the bigger club is that as you get towards, as Karl said, 14, 15, 16, then suddenly it gets very serious. And they're looking for then who's going to move on. They talk about it a lot, who's going to get a scholarship and who isn't, and all the rest of it. Watching the little ones play is brilliant. You can't help but love it. And City are very, very good. Nobody shouts. There is nothing from the parents. If anything comes from the parents, they get politely asked to move away. Just calm down. And it doesn't help the kiddie either. So they're allowed to play. Okay. But I'm not here to advocate Man City above everything.
No, I know.
I'm a United fan for one thing.
Yeah. So am I.
It's a 5-a-side team, but
you give it away. You give it away 30 years now. All the lads at St. Bede's will think you're a City fan, and you turn out to be a Red. Oh God.
Oh no, the earlier one, they know.
They know, do they? All right. Just a quick one, Karl. The controversial question, but would you not sign a boy because of the parents?
No, I would not sign someone because they're parent, but it can become a part of a factor if the parent becomes too involved or wants to become too involved in, amount of time that their children play, what type of coaching is going on. It's a minor thing, but how many, you know, if we're talking about worst case scenario of pushy parents, how often do you see those children of the pushy parents make it all the way to the top?
Yeah,
I know a couple.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
You laughed at that question, didn't you, Shane?
I know a couple, Carl. Quite a few actually, mate.
Chanel, with DeMeo's experience, I mean, what question from a parent's point of view do you think you'd like to ask either, obviously, Joe or Carl?
With from a parent's perspective, yeah, how do you normally decide? You know, if you've got a choice of Blackpool or City, I think that'd be a really hard one, because of you would think as a parent about the educational side of things. And I mean, I know it's not the be all and end all in a sense, but it actually is. If you've got a choice between Blackpool and then City, you're saying they've put your son through 5 years of education, you probably would be more inclined to go with because you're thinking about ultimately the education, aren't you?
Okay, but what about you live in...
Oh, yeah, location and stuff
right,
like that. Yeah, so you would have to look at the whole factor, I guess, yeah. If you lived more near Blackpool, you probably would be more inclined to
I mean, some of the lads who are at the academy lads at Bede's were living in digs, and some of them were moving into digs at 11 and 12, and that's tough for a youngster. So there's swings and roundabouts. I mean, sometimes I don't know enough about the Cat 2 and 3 I've already a very limited experience compared to all you lot. But when you look at how much time is taken, do they do it in the evenings? Are you just taking an hour and a half out of their day compared to at City? I mean, it's all morning at school, straight over there. They eat at 11:30. That's when they have the lunch. So they've got time to digest. They get picked up at 1 o'clock and then taken across. And they can be there till 6:30. And they might even have a game in the evening.
So, quick question for you, Carl.
Yeah.
Coming in, what factors, and this would go over to Shane as well. I want Shane to answer it, but it might be a different answer. What would you look for in an 11, 13 or 15-year-old? What qualities are you looking for when you're looking to sign? Because I know you mentioned that out of 750 junior teams, you might see 600 in a year. I mean, that's unbelievable amount. People don't realise how much work you're putting in. But what factors what are you looking for?
That's at the lowest end. Yeah, that's at the lowest end at under 7 that I would make sure that I'm seeing as many of those under 7 grassroots teams as I can. Yeah. At that age, at the under 7 and under 8, I'm looking for, number one for me is, are they enjoying themselves on the pitch?
Okay.
Because if they don't look interested, then they're not gonna, you know what I mean? If you can't be interested at 7 when you want to play football, because you know what are they going to be like when they're 14, 15?
Okay.
Secondly, for me as well, is about decision making.
Right.
What do they do when they're on the ball? Do they dribble? Do they pass? Do they just try and kick it away so they don't get tackled? So it's about what they do on the ball. Now, different clubs look for different things. Some want dribblers. Some want those that pass. Other clubs will look potentially at parents and think, is that boy going to be potentially an athlete when he's older? Can we train him into a footballer now? It swings and roundabouts. But for me, the key thing is enjoyment and decision making. And then, if the dad's 6'4" and the mum's 5'10", you think, okay, well, there's likely to be tall when he gets to 14, 15. If they're 5'6" dad and 5' mum, the lad's skillful and he's enjoying it and he's happy. And you know, we spoke earlier, didn't we, with Joe saying about you win well and you lose well. You know, if you come away and the lad has a tantrum on the pitch because they've lost in a final, you know, how are they going to turn that around? Because when you come to a Cat 3 team, you won't win every single game.
No.
You're not going to beat every single team, whether it's in your own category or if you get invited in to play City or United or Liverpool or Everton. How are they going to cope playing against other boys that might be stronger, might be technically better, you know, might be quicker? How are they going to cope? So you try to look for that, not just at 7, because that's difficult, but all the way through. Now, as obviously they get older, our job, my job in particular, is to try and produce and look for potential that could go to Blackpool's first team.
Right.
So as they get
older, the more detail you're looking at, physicality, technique, more decision making, tactical awareness, etc., etc. Okay. Okay.
But it's a more analytic kind of viewpoint the older they get, isn't it? That how they are off the ball as well as when they're off on the ball, isn't it? The older they get, because then you know more what kind of footballer they're going to be going into.
Exactly, and I would say that what we look for might be slightly different to what Liverpool look for, or slightly different to what Preston might look for example. It's context. It's really that sort of link then between your first team manager, under 18s to under 16s, under 16s, then through that phase to under 13s, and then that transition between the foundation phase and the youth phase. Is everyone singing from the same hymn sheet?
Yeah.
Does everyone understand really what we're looking to try and produce? You know, exciting footballers, boys that are keen, resilient. They want to play football in the right way. Can we coach them how to do that? Do they understand a little bit as they get older about tactical differences and changing tactics and their roles on the pitch, how that changes based on what we want them to do through our challenges? I'm not worried about going to every single team and winning. What we're looking for is, can we develop those players to be potential first team players at Blackpool down the line?
I'll come back to you in a minute about communication, because that's really important. I'm interested to know how you communicate to the players. But Shane, we're slightly different with United and the development centres. But good point that Karl made earlier, again, about behaviour. If the boy's not ready, do you sort of talk to them in your academy and just say, well, let's hang him on behaviourally or mentally, he's not quite up to it yet. Let's wait a year for, let's say, not go at 9, go at 10 or go at 11. What's your opinion on that?
The kids, depending on what, when they sign and that, they get 2 years. And obviously kids develop at different stages. But with regards to what Karl was saying with, like at 11, 13 and 15, we hold trial days once a year where scouts will go out, look at boys that they're interested in to see if they can. Then they come to the academy in the same sort of setting of, like the CFA, you go to Carrington, it's like a wow factor. And then they play in games in their positions that they like. And then again, I think what we have to take into consideration is football is about opinions as well, because obviously what Karl sees and what I see might be totally different. I'm more of a technical coach type thing. I like technical players, but then also you have to think about if someone's a defender and they're a good stopper or they're a good communicator. When you hold these trial days, are they better than the kids you've got? If they're not better than the kids you've got, only because I worked at an elite academy, if they're not as good as what you've got, then they probably won't come to United. They probably will go elsewhere.
How do you communicate, Karl, to the boys then? Do you do the communication of improvements on the training ground after the game? How do you communicate improvements?
What we do is we use a system called PMA, which every pro club uses. And what we do is we set our own targets, weekly targets. We call them ILPs, individual learning plans, where we give the boys targets to focus on over a period, normally about 6 weeks block to 12 weeks block, where we try and then adapt training sessions to try and bring those individual learning plans and their little sort of things to work on to the fore, see if we can develop certain aspects. Now, every single one of those is different for every boy. It's not, the whole of the under 9s are going to learn how to do this, or the whole of the under 10s are going to know how to do this or how to do that tactically by the end of this 12-week period. Then we're going to tick it off and then we're going to move on to the next thing. And I hope everyone out there knows that it doesn't work like that. Children don't learn like that. Yeah. Coaches don't always work like that as well. But that to us is probably the easiest way to do it. Okay. We give weekly feedback on what we've seen across the theme of that week, whatever it is we're coaching.
Yeah.
and we will give individual feedback using this PMA software that we use. And we also give match feedback about how we felt the boys have played, how they've done, things to work on, things they've done
And
well.
the boys can log in at home to do that, can they, and check it out?
Yeah, it's really for the boys. That's the boys' benefit, and it should be for the boys to then respond to us, say, thanks very much, I'll try and do this next week. I'm going to work really hard on doing that. Obviously, one of the issues that we have is sometimes you start then getting parents start using PMA and then putting their own personal opinion and comments on rather than the children.
Oh dear.
That's going to happen. That's just life, isn't it? That's going to happen.
Okay.
But it's about just reinforcing the fact that it's for the boys to reflect.
Yeah.
It's such an important thing to reflect not just the boys and what they're doing, but us as coaches.
Yeah.
And as recruitment, there's a constant cycle of what's working well, what are we doing, what can we improve on, and how do we do that?
I remember watching, I mean, my son and Shane will know this, you always think, oh, he's had a right stinker there coming back in the car. He didn't play very well. When you look at the highlights or the full game a day later, you see a different game. And actually, sometimes when you thought he's played absolutely brilliant, he's actually not played as well as what you thought he did. And when you think he's had a stinker, he's not played as badly as what you thought he did because of the emotion at the time. But a quick question from Richard Trax for you, Karl.
Yeah.
Karl, as head of academy recruitment, what would your best tip to young players in the game who are currently with an academy be?
Just listen to your coaches. Work hard. Listen to the coaches. Work hard. They're there for a reason. They're not there to try and, make people fail or just try and trick boys. They want every single one of those boys. You invest emotionally in it. You want every single one of those boys to make it. You want all of them to have a fantastic experience. So they're not going to tell you something, that's
listen to the coaches and work hard. What about you, Shane? Anything different?
Not really.
What tips? Come on, give me a different tip.
Well, no, it's one of those. I would always say, you get back what you put in. So if you put in everything you've got in every training session, you're going to improve. We've had this conversation over however many weeks it's been since we've been doing these webinars.
Yeah.
You tend to find the kids that are mentally strong are the ones that sort of go that little bit further, who do all that self-analyzing themselves, without being told. Because look, that last thing you need is your coach turning around and say, what do you do that for? Because you already know when you make a mistake. It's just about handle it in the right way. Maybe an arm over the shoulder and say, can you do this next time instead of doing what you just did? Because the kids know that when they make mistakes, and they also know when they play well. Okay, so go on.
What you put in is what you get out, basically. The more you can put in, the more you can get out.
The more you can put in, the more you get out, and obviously stay focused. If this is what you want to be, if you want to be a footballer, it's down to you. I can only help you and guide you. Yeah. I can't play for you on the pitch. I can help and guide, but that's at half time. I'll tell you some things. But all the things in training, you've just got to, there's a lot to it. It's not just a few tips, as Karl will know, and other coaches that are listening in, it's about the boys really doing themselves.
Another question for you, Karl, from Lebanon, actually. My cousin's over in Lebanon watching.
Okay.
He says, how do you keep the continuity through the first team to junior levels when there are so many changes at managerial level?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and that can be tricky for us as well, particularly in terms of recruitment, because you might have a different philosophy, first team philosophy. That's for us to obviously then adapt. It's rare, as we know, it's very rare to get a Sir Alex Ferguson who will be at a club for 20 plus years, or an Arsene Wenger, 20, 21 years, to then really embed that philosophy, or a Dario Gradi type figure at Crewe, for example. So it's about being adaptable, and it's not always necessarily about recruiting the same style of player. So we try to recruit a mix. So we might have passers, we might have some dribblers, we might have some boys that are physically stronger and quicker, some that are smaller, but they might be more technically gifted. So
in every age group?
In virtually every age group, yeah.
Cool.
But it's a crystal ball, and as we've said before, it's a game of opinion. And all you can do is just try and do your best at that time, whether you're a scout, whether you're a coach, whatever role you're in, you just try and do the best that you can at that moment in time, because you just don't know what's going to happen, 3 or 4 months or even 3 or 4 games down the line.
Joe, quick question for you. Actually, someone's come in and saying, how important is it to have a young, good-looking role model like yourself looking after these boys?
Whoever it is should be borrowing these, I think. So it's...
How important is it having a role model? For the girls, obviously they need a role model as well. The boys, they need a role model. How important is that, do you think?
I think it's crucial, because I just look at why I decided to support United. I used to go to City, but I got taken to watch United Youth when I was about 6 or 7. Guy who lived behind us, me and his little lad played out together, and he took us to City. And George Best was playing for United Youth. That was a complete revelation. I didn't think anybody was allowed to do that sort of thing. And he was just phenomenal. I switched allegiance at the age of 6. And the role model, I suppose that was just based on a haircut, really, and the fact that the guy was unbelievable. The role models, I think, are very, very important. As long as you're looking at them as footballers, you don't need to follow everything they do in their lives, but right, the way they play. And in some ways now, I think you'd like youngsters to look at players who've got initiative. Players who've got independent thought. I think you tend to see very little of it in modern football now. Not so much with Germans, who I think are brought up to decide. Players on the pitch will decide this isn't going right. Your commentators say the manager, he'd be dying to get him in at half time. Well, why can't someone on the pitch do something about it? But they seem to be very, very rigid now.
Chanel, you've got a teenage boy. How important is it, do you think, for you to have a role model? We've talked about this team, Propel family, talking, different perspectives of an argument, one saying one thing, one saying another. It's really important, isn't it, to have a role model?
100%, and definitely somebody who's a bit neutral, who might not be linked to the football or to the parent or somebody. Yeah, they do need a role model, especially when they're at specific ages. They're going through different body changes and everything else that's going on, and it is important, that's somebody that they look up to, somebody that inspires them, and it's important for everyone, isn't it, really, to have something that's it's somebody to look to and turn to. I definitely think so. At these ages, and even younger ages, because that's what you want to be like that. So you'll probably develop your style more to try and be like that as well.
You were right. We were talking yesterday with Karl and Joe. We were just talking off air, and we were talking about year 6, year 7. But actually, Karl, you think it can be even earlier, can't it? Behaviour and getting nurture can start any age.
Well, for me, when they come in at under 7, you set the tone for what you want as a club. Then that's for me the important age group. Or right, whenever they come in, we were talking about handshakes earlier, really right at the very beginning. Now, to me, that's a big thing, because it's about respect. It's about respect for the child, and the child having respect for the coach and the staff that are there. So I might not be the coach of, sort of 90% of the boys that I see coaching, but I'll guarantee that 100% will shake my hand, and I'll happily shake theirs, because it's about being part of that family group, being part of feeling like you're welcomed, and about setting standards. And it's about having high standards and adhering to it.
That's brilliant, because we've got issues, there's no doubt about it, in the country with some parenting and some areas of low income and depredation. And if we can install all this across society, it does make a big difference. And I do think that the discipline that you've mentioned, again, so key points coming across tonight: we've got discipline, we've got nurture, we've got resilience, we've got smiling, life skills, balancing education with sport. I mean, these are massive things. If you can start that at 7 through sport, it doesn't have to be football, it can be any sport, all the way through to 16. Exactly. Well, I think they're going to stand a young man or a young lady in really good stead at 16 than not doing a sport. What do you reckon, Joe?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so developing transferable skills, isn't it, basically, from the get-go?
Joe, quick question from Sean Reed. I don't know whether you know Sean, but Joe, working with players in their school setting, did you feel players would often prioritise either football or school over the other?
Really, it's very, very difficult. And you've got to be realistic. They want to be footballers. Most of them would tend towards prioritising that. But you had others who would say, if and when I get my scholarship, I'm going to do A-levels. I'm not going to do BTEC. The vast majority do BTECs because it's easier to keep the group together and to integrate new players. Because after 16, new players come in, others drop out.
Would you encourage someone to do an A-level or two A-levels?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you've got Vincent Company there who'd done an MBA while he was still playing. Nedimanoa, when he was there, did a degree. It's got a bit harder now they've gone back to straight exams at A-level. It used to be much more straightforward because you could do it in chunks when you had coursework and what have you. There's at least one or two of those lads on there, on the picture who've done degrees, done A-levels. The Keane brothers, Will and Michael Zellison, they were a bit, they did A-levels there.
I think Johnny Evans has got a degree as well, hasn't he? And there's a couple of United lads, Jane.
It's doable.
Yeah.
So,
can I just ask a quick question? Sorry, Joe. Did you ever have to deal with any lads that were obviously at St. Bede's, but then had been released mid-term while they were still getting education? And how did they deal with still being in that group, but obviously not fully being at football anymore?
Well, City guaranteed that they, no matter what, they would stay at the school. Obviously, I wouldn't mention any names. There was only one.
Right.
Who was City release, and that was not for football reasons. I don't want to go any deeper than that.
Yeah. Okay.
Question for you, Shane. What percentage of juniors that actually make a professional career in football? Do you got any idea on stats?
I think it's very, very low. I think maybe it could even be 0.1, 0.2. It's not a high number. But the whole ethos behind, obviously, when I was at United was to get the boys a professional contract. Maybe not at United, but to become a professional footballer. And obviously, there's hundreds of boys that have been through our academy system and made it as a professional footballer, but not with us. But then you have the other strand, which is only very, very small, where lads will break through to the first team.
Sounds about right, I think. Yeah, I think, Karl, it's about 0.1%, isn't it, that make it through?
Yeah, that number gets bandied round quite a lot, that 0.01%. But you've got to look at the information that's come through from that. That's all boys who have come from grassroots football through to then getting a Premier League first team on the pitch.
Correct.
So the figures are skewed a little bit, and there isn't a great deal of research out there that has really looked at percentage of boys that get signed at an academy, whether that's 1 through to 3, or even a Cat 4s at under 16s, under 18s. There isn't a lot of research out there, so that number would obviously be a lot larger. But it would be also interesting just to see about how many players make it from under 9 when you get your first sort of official academy contract right the way through to then first team, whether that be a Premier League first team or whether that be a Football League first team, or how low do you go? Because a lot of the teams in the National League now are full-time, as are the ones in Conference North and South.
I think Peter's over in Florida. To answer your question, Pete, which will put a little bit of context, it's low, but for example, in Naz's year, and he's got Brandon Williams, Dion McGee. You'll know all this, Sean.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garner, Dylan Levitt, Mason Greenwood, Brandon Williams. I mean,
I think on the actual picture, looking back, I think there is over 40% of those boys in that particular team who have made it as a professional footballer. And 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 6 of them still there, maybe 7.
So, Karl, from let's say your current under 16s, how many do you think will be offered pro contracts, and how many do you think will still be in the game at 23 at your current 16s at Blackpool?
I mean, you'd hope all of them. Of them, but you just don't know. I would say it varies from year to year. Depends on the strength of the cohort and also the strength of who's above and who's coming in below. Because I think we just tend to look at age groups as an age group, under 16s, or these are the under 15s, these are the under 14s. But as professionals, you don't look at it like that. You've got to look at it as who are the next 2 or 3 people above me in that position? Who are the 2 or 3 below me in that position? Because potentially they're the ones that could be taking my place. And I think as the boys get older, they might hopefully start to realise that a little bit more, because that's what professional football is going to be like. And I remember Joey Barton, I think, said something about, well, if you think you're coming in as an 18-year-old and you're going to take the shirt off my back, I've got a wife and kids and a mortgage to pay. You're going to have to fight and you're going to have to battle to take that shirt off my back. And as you've got to build that resilience, you've got to build that understanding in. And when I've taken the under 8s this year, and we've played Newcastle and we've played Middlesbrough and Leicester and West Brom and we've played them, we've given them a good game. But I've said, it's not just the boys here within our squad that you'll compete to be a professional footballer against. If that's really what you want to be, just think there's so many different teams out there. They've all got, 10 up to 15, 16 boys, maybe even more in their squads. They all want to be professional footballers. That's what they all want to do. So, you're not even quite on the first rung yet at that age. You're just taking the first step to get onto that ladder. You're not even on the ladder yet.
So
I think there's too many variables, actually, to even put a percentage on. There's too many variables of everything, really.
From Propel's point of view, Shane, that we're trying to get all the boys, when we can't sign them till they're 17, but what we want to really try and do is try and mentor them from 11 and 12 and even earlier if we can, because if we can then get them all the way through and just giving them little tips.
I think maybe, 12, 13.
Yeah.
For them to even understand it as well, crystal ball as well at the same time. You can only guide and help kids, but ultimately, they're doing it themselves. Like if you think back of who was good at 12 or who got released when they were 12, were they still there when they were 14? Obviously, I don't know how to put it with regards to how you would help the boys at that age, but at the same time, I think it's more so the parents understanding where we're coming from. It's not necessarily us helping the boys, because the coaches can do that.
We could just do workshops, though, couldn't we, and helping the parents?
Helping the parents and just being realistic with the parents and actually thinking, well, look, your boy's on a roller coaster. He's either going to get off because he's sick or he's going to stay on because he enjoys it. And we're there to help you make the right decision and to keep you with your feet on the floor, because a lot of parents do get carried away. And obviously they'll listen to other agents that will say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that, and we can do this, and he'll get in that. And
I think having the plan B as well. That there's got to be something that you're thinking, if it doesn't go right, excuse me, then we'll move on to this.
Joe, so
education is the key for everybody, but it's the only other thing that's really an option at that stage.
We had we were discussing before. Sorry, Carl. Go on.
There's many different routes, and the easiest one to imagine is academy football, under 7, under 8, under 9, all the way through, a perfectly smooth transition. First team, 600-700 first team professional football games, international caps. It doesn't happen like that.
No,
it never happens like that. And there's always bumps in the road, and some of those bumps are a little bit bigger and a little bit steeper or a little bit deeper than others. It's about, like Joe said, you've got to have plan B and a C and a plan D. What if, because you just don't know. You just go along, like as Shane said, for the ride, enjoy it as best as you can, make the most of what opportunities you get. And if it doesn't work, like we said as well earlier, it's about a game of opinions. You might disagree with someone's opinion. Go and prove them wrong. Go and do something else. Go to a different club, or drop down and play in grassroots, or drop down and play in non-league and come back another way. Nothing stopping you.
Okay. I think it's quite, from what Chanel said before, it's when as a parent and as a son, as a young man then, it's that feeling, right, it's stopped, it's been released. Who do I go to? Who do I talk to about this? that's, I think, very difficult unless the club is really taking control of that and helping move them on either to another club or whatever. But to do it in a way which makes the parents and the child, and it all boils down, they're all kids here. We're talking up to 16 at the moment. They're children. Who looks after them?
Shane, Joe and Karl don't know it yet, but they've just signed up to be mentors for Propel Sports. Is that all right? Is that all right with you two?
Yeah.
Many children at City.
Joe, quick. Right, we're going to get to the fun part of it now. You need to give us your five-a-side team, Joe. Who's your favourite five-a-side team? Come on.
In goal, there's a theme runs through.
Go on then.
Want a goalie who can play football, so Schmeichel in goal. Ideal. I mean, he learned his trade playing handball, so ideal as keeper. One defender, Martin Buchan, going back a little bit now. Quality
player. What a player, yeah.
Quality player. Never a hair out of place.
Yeah, that's right.
Midfield, to add a bit of culture, Roy Keane.
Right.
Later in his career, lovely short passing everywhere, always available. With him, in the middle, George Best, who I just think is the best footballer I've ever seen.
Okay.
People say Maradona, all the rest, but if he'd have got kicked away, Best. And up front, the man who could score on sand, concrete, mud, Van Nistelrooy.
All right. Okay. Wow. Bit of blended between the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 2000s. Nice. Like it. Yeah. Very good. How about you, Joe? Have you got your five-a-side team there, mate?
That was me.
He's going to copy you, Joe. He's going to copy you. Go on.
Do you want mine?
Yes, please, Karl.
Yeah, again, similar theme. Being an Arsenal fan. So my goalkeeper is David Seaman.
Oh, God.
Safe fans. Obviously played for City at the end of his career as well. So hopefully curry some favour with Joe. And just a calming influence. At the back, I've got Paolo Maldini.
Well done, Karl. That's my choice. Well done. Bit of Paolo at the back.
Oh, good man. Got to get a prize for that. When I was growing up, Italian football was on TV probably more readily
every Sunday
to watch than what it was in the football league or Premier League. It was easier to watch. You didn't have to subscribe to it. It was on, obviously, and Maldini was just pure class, just graceful. So my midfield, similar to Joe, I've got someone in there with a bit of fight, bit of steel, which is Patrick Vieira. I was in London and went and watched Arsenal quite often. The season that we bought him in '98 when we did the double that year, him and Petit. But I've gone for Vieira there as a bit more of an influence with him in midfield, and you could argue whether or not it's a midfielder or a striker. He's a number 10, Dennis Bergkamp.
Nice.
The best player that I've ever seen play live. Just oozed class.
Yeah.
Never looked like he was struggling. And then up front he's got to be Thierry Henry.
Thierry Henry. I thought you were going down that route.
Close between him and Ian Wright, because I love Ian Wright just for the enthusiasm.
Yeah, I did as well.
But it was a tough one. But for me, Henry could just score every type of goal, every single goal.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, guys. Great teams. Those two teams playing against each other would be quite interesting, wouldn't it?
One-sided.
If anyone's interested, a good watch is the Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira thing. If you've managed to watch it, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. They did the similar thing, but they put an 11-a-side team out. Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah. I watched that with my 15-year-old son, and he just could not get over the type of tackles that were going on that weren't straight reds. They were just bellies off and yellows. And I'm like, that's the good old days when you could tackle.
When we're off air, could I tell you a little story about we had a sports dinner at school?
Of course you can. Well,
we're both there.
Stay on. We'll go off live in a couple of minutes, but stay on the meeting, Joe, and we'll have a chat.
Right.
So just for everybody that's listening, I hope they enjoyed. I've really enjoyed tonight. It's getting better every week. Obviously, the quality of the people that are coming on and the subjects are getting better, and I'm getting a little bit more used to asking questions that are relevant and getting some interesting messages across, which is what we're about. Thursday, we've got two great chaps coming in, actually. Dave Horrocks, who's chairman of Fletcher Moss. So anybody involved with grassroots, please do come on, because Dave Horrocks has had probably 15 pros and 4 or 5, 6 playing with Man United, and many players have come all the way through. So you know Dave pretty well, don't you, Shane?
I do know Dave very, very well. He's a top bloke.
He's a top
now,
bloke.
Heart and soul, yeah. Heart and soul, such a nice person.
Yeah, Mr. Grassroots, I call him. And then we've also got Richard Donnelly, who was a pre-academy manager at United. So we've got 2 really big hitters on Thursday at 8:10. Hopefully you tune in. I'll be putting out the videos and sharing their videos probably tomorrow. Hope you come on and talk to us. We'd love to have Joe and Karl on again, talking about probably, I think we mentioned, Joe, the German model being slightly different in education to the British model. So that might be a subject.
Yeah, do a little bit of research on it. It was Frank Lampard wrote a few years back, 3 years ago.
Maybe talking further up the ladder on 14s to 18s and scholarship to pro. Maybe that might be a subject to come on again for, Karl. Do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm happy to come on again. Anything you want me to talk about,
okay.
I'm more than happy to. Thank you.
But, thanks for both of you for coming on. It's been really great. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you on Thursday. But appreciate your time. I'm going to be going off live now, guys. But if you stay on the Zoom, we can have a quick chat.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Pleasure. I think we might be off now, boys.
Yeah, we're off now.
It's still recording though.
Yeah, recording's offline, so don't worry. Recording is goes so I can share it with you, and then we can edit it if there's anything in there that's controversial, but I don't think there was. And I'll put the put our information on there, Chanel, at the end. So I forgot to mention that, but it was in the background, wasn't it? So.
Yeah, it was there. No, thanks so much, guys, as well for coming on. That was really, really informative and really helpful. I've got my teenager here in the room at the moment, but he's staying off camera and he's just been listening to it all. So thanks so much for that.
Good.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
There's quite a few people who can talk a few glass eyes to sleep, you see. You know, you notice that? We're on 25. We're on 25 to 10 here. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to wrap it up now, but glass eye to sleep. I get it now, Shane.
I'm telling you.
Shane, Joe said to me, "I've never used Zoom before. Can you ring me the day before so we can go it through?" We've been chatting about 5 hours. We're best mates now, aren't we, Joe?
Yeah. I've spoken to you more than I talked to me, right? Mind you.
Actually, Karl and I mean, he's like so passionate about football, aren't we, Karl? But it's good to get these messages across and talk, and I've really enjoyed it. And you learn so much. You never stop learning, and I think it comes through, to people that these messages they need to hear them regularly, don't they?
They do. They always need reminding. And do you know what's been really nice as well is the fact that, I mean, we've never met in person, but it's through other sort of mutual friends that we both have made through football that we've now been in this situation. So, brilliant. Thank you so much for inviting me on as well.
A pleasure, but you can touch base with Shane after, because obviously Shane's got some fantastic kids. I mentioned it to you, and I know you won't mind. But obviously, as an alternative to the big boys, Shane, touch base with Karl, because you've got some smashing kids, haven't you, coming through? Yeah,
I mean, obviously Nicky sees them anyway, but there's a lot of commitment to go to Blackpool, and there is other Cat 2s, Cat 3s, and all the rest of it around. It's one of those, and I'm sure Karl will agree. To be fair, asking someone to travel an hour and a half, depending on traffic, to just even if it was just to train for an hour or an hour and a half. It is a lot to ask. And, like Karl said, if they're enjoying the football, I don't know. Sometimes I think, is it beneficial? But obviously I'm now out of the academy system.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about 7, 8 and 9 though, Shane.
No, I'm talking about, up to, even up to, I'd say even up to 4, they've got school and stuff like that, even up to 14, 15.
Yeah, I mean,
Looking back now, I wish I'd not let my son go to Liverpool. I know but he was younger then, but it was 3 times a week, 2 hours a time. Do it's very, very draining, and At the
More
time,
more so for the parents and stuff like that. A commitment, Baz. Not everybody's like you, Baz. Do you know what I mean? I know you chaperoned Naz, and you know you fortunate for you. You had the a good job behind you, and you be able to leave at certain times. You took him to United. You took him City, Stoke. You know, Stoke's bloody a right trek, especially on the M6 at whatever time.
He went on his own to Stoke, so he just got a train from Piccadilly. So
right, okay.
It is an hour. You know, it's an hour on the train. And you've got to get picked up, go to the academy. Then he comes back at 11 o'clock at night. He's got to do his own work.
But then obviously, you know, going to the older age groups, you know, when you hit like 15, I'd say, you know, 14, 15, when the lads have got a bit of an idea, they've had their growth spurt, they know what's what. Right, this is the only route for you now if you're going to travel an hour and a half. You know, and even lads at semi-pro level and stuff like that, they're still mad as that as they travel and do all the rest of it. But it is difficult to sort of like know what's best, you know, because like Karl said, you know.
Go on, Karl.
Sorry, mate.
Do you know what? I get that. I understand that. You know, because we're not in a city. You've got to travel. I mean, our base is just north of Preston. It's not even in Blackpool. It will be in about 2 or 3 years' time. We've got plans for a £10 million academy to be built right in the heart of Blackpool. And that's going to take away, for me, that's going to take away most of Manchester and Liverpool, which are massive catchment areas for us. We can go that far. But for me, I think the real thing, and I wish I'd said it now, it's a very special time to be involved at Blackpool, because the club has hit rock bottom to a certain extent, and it's only going one way. It's only going one way, and now's the time to get on board with it, really, because it's, you know, I feel for Oldham and I feel for Rochdale, because they're always going to be, unless they get a billionaire owner or a millionaire owner like Blackpool have now suddenly got, it's not really going to significantly change for them. So what I would say is, yes, there is a Bolton in between us and Manchester, or, you know, there's a Wigan between us and Liverpool. But do you know what? Maybe that extra half an hour drive up the M6 or the M61 could make all the difference between your son thriving in an academy or just being just part of one of another 20 lads.
Bit of a clue, Karl. Shane loves his Arabic food, Mediterranean, fattoush, hummus, bits of kebab. You get in that, he'll plug it for you all day long.
I tell you what, you know, I wish I'd said before as well, sorry, you know, the big difference that I found taking my son at a Cat 1 and taking him to a Cat 3 was the family feeling. You did get that feeling of you're not as isolated. It's more unified, if you get what I mean. I
think it's more personable, isn't it? You know, there's a lot of like, because obviously as a coach at United, we never spoke to the parents. Spoke to the parents twice a year, and that was on parents' evening. Apart from that, you're there for the kids. You're not there to tell the parent, you know, to blow smoke at the parents' house. You're supposed to, you know, sort of do your job basically. You know what I mean? And it was a case of, I'm not being funny, Chanel. I never wanted to speak to a parent anywhere, but like, no, you're all right. Come on, lads, let's go.
And I do think us as parents are more like, oh, we can't wait to speak to the coach and try and get some feedback. And I guess I'm learning a lot as a parent now, looking back and thinking.
Yeah, we used to stay in, Chanel. We used to stay in and do reports on the kids. No, I'm not joking you. I'm not joking you. We used to stay inside and wait for all the kids to go before we even went, because if we even attempted to go out, you get pulled left, right and centre. But then the EPPP came in, and then you had to actually do some work and write some stuff down. So, you know, that all changed it. And then, you know, but the last thing you want to do is speak to a parent and, you know, it's one of those, let the kid do the talking rather than me telling you. You can see for your own eyes what's going on. It is a bit of a...
I'm probably guilty. I'm probably guilty of wanting to talk to parents probably a little bit more than I should at times, but it's only to say he's doing all right. You know what I mean? You can't give a full verbal 20-minute debrief every game to every parent, but you know, they're sort of where we walk off on Myerscough. It's in the corner of the Astro. There's the gate there where we come on.
No other way
and
out.
they just queue. They're queuing.
No
They're just hanging around, and you've got to walk by them and go, it's done all right today. But that's all you get. You know, that's good for me. You know, if I give them a thumbs up, they know they've done all right. You know, and you know, some weeks you double thumbs up, and other weeks it's no thumbs up, and that's just part of the learning process as well. But I think because
depends if the mother's attractive as well, Carl. That usually helps as well.
That's not part of my recruitment criteria. That I don't. That's not my selection criteria.
Was mine.
See how cheeky he is, Chanel. See how cheeky he is at Yates. See how cheeky he is.
I'd talk to Chanel, you know what I mean? I'd come on, hi, Chanel, you're right. How's tricks?
Oh, nice one, Jane. You're embarrassing me now. I'm leaving the meeting in a minute.
Right. Well, that photo that I had at the start, you know, with Mancini on it.
Yeah.
Should have used the other one. It's Vieira came in. So I had a photo with him.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I was... but my eldest daughter's married an Arsenal fan. That's not gone down well.
No.
Well, half of my family live down south, you know, so...
He's an Arsenal fan, and he has his hair cut twice a week. We don't get on that great.
I've got
I thought you were going to say they're cut like semen then.
And half of Chelsea and half of United, so I've got the whole shebang going on when there's ever games.
But we had a
I'll let you all in.
we organised at Bede, and City bought a table, and he came with them. It was a few years back, and there were 10 on a table, and Roy Keane's kids went to the school. So he was at another table just further on. He always went, if Brian Kidd was going, he'd sit with him. And they had an auction towards the end. And usually we just do raffles, but there were a couple of auctions. No big deal. It was £10 a bid. And you only have a couple because people feel out of it. And there was a Chinese meal at the Yang Sing for 10. And about 250 quid. Keane put his hand up. 260 quid. And he was saying, going once, going twice. And Vieira put his hand up. And everybody laughed, you know, because he did it twice. When it got to 980 quid,
Oh, gosh.
I'd walk round the side, because there was myself and another guy ran it. And everybody was laughing, enjoying it. He walked round past Keane's table, and his face had gone. You know, that wild look, he'd had enough. And he bid 980, and he going once, going twice. For the umpteenth time, Vieira put his hand up. He was just smiling. And Keane went... £2,000. He got it, went and got the tickets. And I went across with him. He all right? He said, yeah, I don't even bloody like Chinese food. I paid £10,000 to make sure that bastard
He's done a good job then, hasn't he? Go on, Carl, you were going to say something.
We were talking about allegiances, and it's been tricky for me because all of my wife's family, and I mean all of them, are North Enders, all season ticket holders. And to the point where I am not allowed to wash the under-8s kit and hang it up outside in the backyard. I can actually see North End's ground from where I'm sat here.
Oh, God.
Tribal, aren't we? Tribal.
And also talking about Roy Keane, the person who sort of brought me back into coaching, sort of a bit from the wilderness really, was Alan Kelly, the goalkeeper for the Republic of Ireland. And Alan has got some amazing stories about Roy Keane, but not least the one where he was out at South Korea and it had all kicked off. And it was actually Alan was the one really that he fell out with, along with Paddy Bonner, over the goalkeepers in the training. And I said to Alan, were you not scared? He said, you know what? He had a point, Roy Keane. It was awful. He said the pitch was rock hard. He said there was no footballs there. He said, I agreed with him. He said, but he came down the next morning after this huge argument with I don't know why he took it with him, but he said, I had an IRA-style balaclava that I brought with me. And he goes, and I came down with it on. And he goes, and the place just erupted with laughter. And it just completely diffused the situation between Roy and Alan straight away. He said, I got on really well with Roy Keane, really well with him. And he said, and it was just Roy's way. He had such high standards. Yeah. And he said, and obviously, you know, he even now, he's like Joe's just said, he's out the game as such, but his standards in life have been made for football.
Seems to be really popular on TV now as well, doesn't it?
It's funny. It's funny.
That's what I think. So it's a nice change from all the other bland nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can see the interviewers dreading it in a way. What do you think, Roy? And there's a sort of a movement back. Dead nice fella.
He just says it how it is. That's it. Says it how it is.
Lord of Ireland, dead pleasant. Other times, he just looks not. His wife says, "I can't tell what mood he's in most of the time."